And now we go live to our Georgetown correspondent.
Thank you, Jason. They're calling this the Battle of Georgetown. I'm surrounded by the burnt remains of a dozen or more unarmored personnel recreational transports. Recently, the shooting has died down on this block, so the looting, prostitution, and bar crawls can continue unabated. But at any time, the action could start up again and we could be forced to dodge bullets. It's a mindset you have to live with day in and day out, particularly if you work at or operate a business in this area. I'm embedded in a platoon led by First Sergeant Bernard Farquhart, and he's here to talk to us now. Bernard, thank you for your service.
By now you've ascertained from the broken glass on the ground and the small caliber ingress points on the storefront behind us that we are under siege. My team is tactically securing the sidewalk to hold this location.
Bernard Farquhart, you're also a veteran of the Rainier Avenue insurrection. How does this compare? Thank you again for your service, by the way.
It's an honor to serve my district. Rainier was hell, but child's play compared to Georgetown. We never had to deal with all these foobarred recreational vehicles. We been out of plywood to plug all these holes for months. We're in the shit, man. The homeless are close. I can smell them.
Hang on, there seems to be something developing. A large group is approaching. They seem to be part of some kind of off-site or morale-building event. It's difficult to tell from what faction, possibly from the nearby Starbucks HQ, or maybe from a team within Amazon. We've got to go.
Shit, keep your head down! Welcome back to Seattle Sucks, podcast about hating the city we love. I'm Colin. We're back on the boat with Greg.
Hey, I'm Greg.
And we also have a very special guest, super friend of the show, though he's never been on before. You've probably heard his name many times if you're a long-time listener. We're here with Jason Rigden. Welcome to the show.
Hello.
Mr. Rigden himself.
Mr. Rigden, exactly. So, if you're not familiar with Jason or his work, I'm going to call you a podcast magnate. You're currently running Talk to Seattle, a show that we have appeared on once, which I think you described as civics, politics, and art.
Yeah.
All about Seattle. And Podcast Questions, which is sort of a meta podcast.
Yeah.
And not only are you doing that, but you also organize the Seattle Podcasters Guild and Meetup, which is super cool. And that occurs every month at Optimism Brewery in Capitol Hill.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming.
Yeah, we're very glad to have you.
Glad to have
Thanks
you.
for having me. It was an honor.
And brilliant performance as the
anchor.
News anchor.
Yeah, from safety in where would the headquarters?
I don't know.
Westlake, is that where Q13 is? They used to be there.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, so I think we're going to talk about mostly what you've been working on at Talk to Seattle, I think, recently, with respect to the city council races. You were, I said this earlier before the show started, your list of who was running in the city council races was the first that I saw.
Oh, cool.
There's a lot to keep track of.
Yeah, because you were saying at the time it was like 20-something people, but there...
Oh, no, I think it was like 40
40?
something.
Okay.
Yeah, 40-something,
okay.
yeah.
40 people, and...
40 plus, yeah.
Wow, and you are working to collect them all, you were joking.
Like Pokemon.
Yeah.
I am going to collect them all.
I hope you got the Pokeballs for that, but so can you tell us, first of all, I guess, like, why you wanted to do this, and how it's going generally?
Yeah, gosh, I think I was looking for people to interview, and naturally some of the council folks or council candidates seemed interesting to me. And then I don't think I realized how many people were running. And it seemed doable at first. I was going to do like, do an episode every week. But, if you just do the math, we'll be in like December by the time I get done releasing all of these. And the election will be over, but I'll still be releasing.
Yeah.
So then I had to move to like 5 days a week. And so I try to limit it to 3 city council candidates a week. And then try to get some other people, like 2 other people that are not running for anything. Like usually like an artist. So I had, I think like maybe 2 weeks we're going to have the Seattle Walk Report.
Oh, cool.
Narbu is going to be, I think, this week. And then earlier we had Starhead Boy.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so
very cool.
Artists.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Well, tell us, tell us a little bit more about what I mean, because we've been to like one of the meetups, but I want to hear more about before we like jump into just talking about like the council candidates. Like, tell us more about the Seattle Podcasters Guild or what you're trying to do there, or like what has come of it so far. Because like we went to, I think the first meetup at Optimism, we met some cool people.
Yeah.
We met the Deadbeat Film Society cats there, and then that's why we went on their show.
That was a great episode. I love that episode.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, we had fun. It was super fun hanging out with
awesome.
them. Tell us what are you trying to like do there?
I'm really just trying to connect podcasters and people who want to start podcasts too. So, a lot of our meetings...
The world needs more.
Yes, we don't have enough. we don't. Like, we don't. We actually need more because it's one of those things like the marketplace of ideas.
No, defend that position. Defend that position that the world needs more. I want to hear that.
Yeah, we're going to watch you squirm a little bit.
So, it's like bands, right? So, this is one thing I like to talk a lot about is that there are certain communities that just produce really great music.
Yeah.
And a lot of times, like, it's usually like a certain time and place. And when you look back, it's because there's like a really networked kind of community there. Like everybody kind of knew each other. There's a lot of cross-pollination, a lot of like working together. Like folks would start bands, like leave bands, and like reform. And I can see the same thing happening with podcasts too, is that if we can make a more connected podcast community here in Seattle, we'll just naturally start making better podcasts.
No big deal. It's just trying to reverse engineer lightning in a bottle.
Totally. Yeah, why not?
Yeah, that is the 21st century way, I guess. Well, it's look. I make fun, but no, I agree. It's I think it's helpful to a lot of people, and it's cool. Like just meeting other people. I need more friends.
Well, people make fun about podcasting quite a bit, right? Because it's so easy. Like, what they say, like every white guy's got a podcast, right? Yeah. But we live in a time where like media has been so consolidated.
Yeah. Like
these are really the only actual independent voices out there.
Yeah.
Like everybody else is like either begging corporations for money or being employed by corporations. Like so many people making local content, like you guys, you're independent. Like no one's telling you what to do. No one's going to say you can't release this episode. And so I really want to encourage that kind of independent media.
Hell yeah. It took me a while to get into podcasts. When I did, I was like amazed. Like, wow, actually a lot of like important voices are at least partially putting out. Some people like that I was, reading for years also like have podcasts that are really impactful, I think. Like it's one thing, and I still do this because I have lots of like friends that I hound with shit all the time, and like it's one thing to like send someone an article or even give someone a book. For some reason you would think this wouldn't be the case, but like you can get someone hooked on a podcast. Like you can evangelize that, and it works. Like I have this new thing where I'm telling people like that I know, like at the right moment. Like there's a program. It's a 2-step program. It's stop listening to NPR and replace that in your life with Jacobin Radio and Citations Needed, which is really like 4. Jacobin Radio is like 3 different shows that feed, and then add Citations Needed on there, and you get it's such a broad thing that's filling the same like role in your life as listening to like KOW, but it isn't stupid and is really 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 great, awesome content, and like on really good topics from really smart people that you're not hearing on those outlets. Because I know a lot. I've been historically an NPR listener, and I know a lot of them, and like exactly.
Once you go to podcasting, it's hard to go back. And
one
reason why is because so I'm a big podcast listener, and like I listen to my things like sped up, right? Like a lot of people do. You get rid of the silence.
Whoa! Slow the fuck down. Oh? Okay, I am like this is blowing my. Shut the what? You speed up to so they go by faster because you need to. You're
consume
like
more.
You're turning up like the data rate of your podcasts, so that you can process them faster.
Now remember, one reason why is because I do like 2 episodes a week of a podcast where I interview other podcasters, so I need to listen to their shows.
Yeah,
I listen to so much content.
This is like one podcast in one ear, one in the other. Like...
If I could, I would, but and then I turn the radio to NPR. I'm like, oh my god, I can't. What's wrong here?
Okay, I do not want to get on that drug and be chasing that fucking dragon the rest of my media consuming life.
I do that with YouTube too. If you do YouTube on desktop, you can do double speed there too.
That is super hardcore. I don't think I could ever do video.
If you're watching those city council meetings on YouTube,
fair enough. Yeah.
you can then you can get through because like a lot of that is there's a lot of whatever going on there, and like I'm sure.
I'm picturing you like doing your dishes with Google Glass on your face, watching YouTube at double speed.
Yeah. No, usually it's just me on the chair of the cat. Just watching city council stuff at double speed, just trying to figure out what's going on.
Wow.
Yeah.
You're blowing my mind. I mean, wow.
So NPR is so slow with a lot of their stuff, and like,
yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of podcast listeners that they only listen to NPR content. I mean, there's I think the NPR app that people like quite a lot.
Yeah.
But those folks are getting kind of such a very narrow like view of podcasting. They don't realize all the stuff that's out there.
Yeah.
Though it does inform their opinion on the art, in scare quotes. Like, I've had a few people kind of just laugh in my face when they discovered this podcast because it didn't sound like an NPR podcast.
But it's not radio. Like, I wrote this article about, like, the different types of podcasts.
Yeah.
And, like, some, like, podcasting consultants were talking about it on the show, and, like, they kind of took issue. So when I was trying to make this list of the different formats of podcasts that are. And one of my things was recycled. And they didn't like that. And,
well, so you also compiled the like your exhaustive list of all Seattle podcasts.
Yeah.
Yes.
Both by subject, by just location, by whatever.
I don't think I've done location quite yet.
Well, but I mean,
like, for Seattle.
Made in Seattle.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So it's like I think.
So how many of those have you actually sampled, by the way?
Gosh, not that many really. Like, because
how many are there?
I believe we're at 275 now.
Wow.
I think I need to do an update, and I keep on promising.
What's the most common stuff?
Geek culture.
Yeah. Okay.
So video games, D&D.
Nerds,
yeah, there's a lot of it, and like I was on a show, super awesome geek show, but it's really hard to differentiate yourself. It's like a very saturated like genre.
This
really
is why
need something unique.
Why we never did a movie podcast.
Yeah.
Like we probably thought about that for the last like 10 years.
Yeah.
And we're just like, because that's the other thing we talk about all the time is for our entire, and our other friends is movies.
Yeah.
Particularly bad movies, but again, that's already been done 100 fucking times.
You need some kind of angle.
Yeah, we could never crack that just logically, I think, and our talks about this never went that far of like, because Colin and I and some of our friends have seen more like bad cinema than probably anyone else alive.
Hundreds of movies.
Thousands. We do every week.
Over like more than 10 years.
For more than a decade, we get together, watch 2. In the old days, it would be like 3 movies a night of not just like, I meant like, we're talking thousands, so you can't watch The Room that over and over and over and over again. We're talking like shit you've never heard of. Every possible category. Yeah, sure. Big, terrible blockbusters that, everyone's heard of.
Like Transformers.
Yeah, great.
Wow.
But but also Hallmark Christmas films. Christian cinema.
Alex Kendrick, represent.
Yeah. Does Scarecrow have a podcast? They should have.
They should. Yeah, that's a really great idea.
Wow, that's I
have
really
so many people coming to me like wanting to do business podcasts, but they have no plan. They also don't want to pay me.
They want you to produce. People are asking you to produce their podcast.
Yeah, like for free or almost free for a business. Like I totally will help people if they're just like whoever. Yeah. But a business should pay their employees.
Yeah.
What is their pitch? Are they like, this will be good for your exposure? Or something?
Yeah.
That sweet exposure.
Well, the internet, everything's free on the internet, including labor.
Yeah. Yeah, and even the stuff that they promise to pay you, then they don't pay you.
Right, yeah. That sucks, man.
Yeah, but there are tons of people, and they all want to know, well, how can I make a compelling, like, podcast about my company? And you can't?
Yeah.
So, like, people come to me, like, with their kind
that surprises me, though,
sad blockchain company, and they're like, how can we make a podcast about this that people will listen to? Can?
Yeah.
Most software companies probably aren't going to be able to make a good podcast about their company because
No.
it's going to be way too in the weeds. Like, unless you really want to be making a show that's like really, really niche.
Yeah.
Like, you want your customers that are using this API to listen to this and like really get into it, but they don't want that. They want, they're like, well, how can I rank on iTunes? Like, that show is not going to rank on iTunes.
Yeah.
Wow, yeah.
Sounds like you're talking to a manager also.
Okay, we should stop the nerd talk. But once we cut this out, actually, we should be asking you for advice off air about how to juice our numbers.
Oh, I can tell you. Oh, wait. If you want to know how to cheat, I've got all the ways.
Okay, great. Well,
I mean, not that I use them. I will point out all the ways people
the
cheat.
dark podcasting arts.
Yeah.
All right. So I guess the real deal here is like, tell us about. So how many of you talked to? Council candidates out of the 40 plus
yes.
so far.
So I believe last week I crossed the threshold of talking to most of them.
Okay.
But more are still announcing, so it's kind of like
the
finish line.
numbers always changing.
Yeah, because I put it in my email. Then I was like, to people, asking them to come on the show. And I was like, well, 5 more people announce, I will throw off my numbers, and it won't be exactly most. I was like, no one's gonna care. Yeah. So lots of. I don't know how many I've actually released. I think total for the show, I think we have 35 total episodes out.
Okay.
But I think only last month did we go to 5 days a week. So I've got a whole bunch that are in the can that need to be put out.
You're doing God's work.
Yeah. Well, someone's got to.
Well, I mean, a lot of I see a lot of my people have been on Cairo radio, giving interviews.
Yeah.
I think
venerable institution.
I think they've been interviewing quite a lot of people. I don't know how broad. Like, I'm doing everybody.
Yeah.
I don't know if they're doing everybody.
The Stranger's also doing pieces on a lot of folks.
Yeah, I think there's something
right?
definitely valuable about hearing someone's voice. And
Hearing
them talk.
Mm-hmm.
It really builds a connection.
Definitely.
I mean, they're relatively short interviews.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 15, 20 minutes. I think, yeah.
Let's start breaking it down. Who are these people? At least the ones you've talked to.
Okay.
So who do we got? So, should we go by district or go by, should we divide into categories? Who are the cops running in the race?
Who are the cops? It once again, I think we were saying earlier, it's like Pokemon, where you have these different types. So we do have, there are, I think, 3? There's so many, it's hard for me to keep track myself. I think there's 3 different former police officers that are running.
Cool, very cool.
Don't know if I can name them all.
That's all right.
I don't think I've actually interviewed any of them. I want everyone to come on the show. I want all the candidates to come on the show. But I don't think I've had any police officers.
Been updated.
Yeah, Sergio Garcia is one of the former police officers that is running
in District 6.
District 6, yeah, and then
there's one I thought that was running in District 7. Didn't we talk about that, Greg?
District 7
at some point, but maybe
in our district. Yeah, which one of that? Which guy?
Jim Pugel.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Yes. Brandon Colding.
Okay.
Yeah, I believe so. Yes. And those are the ones I know of that were former police officers.
Those are all they were SPD guys.
I believe so. Yeah. And I think we only have 2 incumbents. That's the really big thing. It's having only 2 3.
Who are the 3?
Shama Sawant.
Yes.
Herbold, Lisa Herbold, and Deborah Juarez.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And everyone else is not up for re-election or has bowed out.
Yeah.
Or has already resigned. Seats are not up.
No,
they're up next year, I think.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah, and I really think the democracy vouchers really allowed a lot more people to want to enter the race because, if you don't have friends with deep pockets, you really can't run for office.
You can't pass the Rolodex test,
Yeah, and, the democracy voucher program has got some issues, but it's an experiment, right?
Yeah.
There's not many, it's pretty unique what we're doing
definitely.
for city politics.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And considering how much, I don't know the numbers off the top of my head, but the price that these seats are going to cost, of doing it, it's insane. The district-wide ones were insane last time.
Yeah.
So, and the city's still kind of dealing with this whole thing of the districts are kind of relatively new.
Yeah.
People, like are not really familiar with the districts, like citizens, and also I think it's kind of reflected in some of my interviews when I asked folks about, some of the issues facing their districts, their district. Sometimes they have a hard time actually really focusing on district level issues.
Yeah.
Which kind of, I think, shows that there's still that kind of mindset in a lot of candidates that these are kind of citywide. Mm-hmm. But you really need, I think, in order to get elected in this kind of district system where it's localized, you really need to be able to say, oh, my district has like this list, have like a laundry list of things for those folks, because you also need the more citywide appeal, but you really need to be like speaking to those local folk.
District 7 is a weird one, right? We've talked about that because Magnolia and Queen Anne are in District 7, but Pioneer Square is also in District 7. So
I've been surprised in my interviews that I think I've done a couple people with District 7 and the Magnolia Bridge has not came up. I don't think anybody's talked about it yet, because they still want that bridge replaced.
Hey, I gotta say, I want that bridge replaced.
Hey, I've got okay.
We can have everything we want. We don't. It doesn't have to be one or the other.
Yeah, it really doesn't.
That's my
because
perspective on that.
All it takes is a little ingenuity, creative thinking, and problem solving. All you have to do is take this waterfront viaduct we're not using and take it in big chunks and repurpose it as the new Magnolia Bridge. Yeah.
Sounds great.
Yeah, I think those are solid engineering principles. What's the other one is this one has been talked about a little bit of the link rail going to West Seattle.
Yeah.
That's a big issue. People want a tunnel. They want the overhead.
Yeah.
But the tunnel's going to be, it's going to be very expensive for a tunnel.
Yeah.
So, and it's not like they have like a ton of money.
Yeah.
Well, that's...
I mean, they don't have a ton of money, but they're doing mega projects, so
right.
that money like dwindles quickly.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a big problem, I think, on city level politics everywhere in this country that, and this is in some ways pretty unique to the United States. Since the 80s, in the sort of Reagan neoliberal revolution, the federal government has pulled back, has all funding for everything. And that is literally the only way you can actually do infrastructure is on the level that controls a sovereign fucking currency. Mm-hmm. And so now you've got, I think everywhere in America, you've got people, local politics is about like, how do we spend these meager funds that we have to solve these big problems, and what are the innovative solutions, or who are the bad guys here? And it's like, at the end of the day, it is all bullshit, because you won't solve fucking any of it without a completely different approach to federal funding and governance.
Well, we've dug ourselves in a big hole. Like, we've got bridges falling down in this country.
Yeah.
Because for years and years and years, we have neglected our infrastructure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I continuously think eventually, on the national level, we're going to have a big push to fix this stuff. It just never happens. It just keeps on growing.
Of course, we got federal funding for the beautiful tunnel under the city.
That no one's driving.
Not fucking public transit,
Yes. Yeah, the waterfront issue. I'm surprised that that's not brought up more.
Yeah.
It's really kind of been swept under the rug.
Well, the fight was had and lost over and over. Like, it was decisively...
I'm still bitter. I'm still bitter about the monorail.
Yeah, seriously, so am I, man. Dude, listen, I volunteered for McGinn when he ran. Basically, that whole campaign was about that fucking tunnel, and the reality was it was too late at that point, and the momentum was there, and so many people were stacked up, so many interests were stacked up against the people who were against that fucking tunnel, and including McGinn. Even when he was mayor, it was out of his hands. But that tells you, like, that big project got done because it got an enormous amount of federal funding. But
now people are shocked that the real estate is increasing in value along that
weird.
Very strange, side effects.
Yeah, that's bizarre.
The market works in mysterious ways, Jason.
I know.
Gosh, just think if you were clever enough to have bought that land.
Yeah, clever enough.
Sometimes the invisible hand pats you on the back. Sometimes it gives you a reach around. That's all I'm saying.
Well, like, are there district level issues that people are taking positions on?
But one thing somebody was talking about was in District 4, sewer stuff. Which is like a very... I loved it because it's like, this is like a real
What are
real
the
city.
sewer issues?
So apparently in District 4, the sewers have been neglected quite a bit.
I'm guessing that's true everywhere.
Yeah. She was saying that, she thought that was particularly bad there, which I like that because that's like a very run the city kind of issue. That's a real...
Yeah.
A lot of people want to have grandiose things. Like, the sewer is very important. If it's not working, and like we were talking, like, infrastructure has not been taken care of. I could totally see our sewer lines being all kinds of messed up.
Oh, everything's... so right out here, about once every month or two, the water main cracks a leak on a different spot on my block, like right along... It runs right along, like, the strip of parking right in front of the marina fence. It's right under there is the water main. Literally, like, every 6 to 8 weeks, they're like, water starts seeping up from the ground in a different spot, and they have to come in, dig it out, and patch what I assume is a 100-year-old pipe.
Yeah.
So it's probably has like 12 patches on it inside of like 200 yards right now. But I mean, that's just the reality everywhere, and it's like, that's why city politics becomes about like this like, how to triage this shit and how to best assign how to use the funds most efficiently, like, and it's like, it's just a losing battle. This is why we harp on ideology instead. It's like, because I think you can sit here and talk about like how we're spending the money to combat homelessness, the dollars we have for fucking forever. It doesn't matter. You need a whole different fucking approach. So
yeah, and I think that framing is about starving the beast, right? Like, this is really whenever we talk about this stuff, whether we realize it or not, we're talking about austerity.
Yeah. Yeah, we've been living under austerity for decades. It's been exported around the world as well. For decades in some places, and more, in the last 10 years in Europe. But
how long do you think that's going to last? Do you think that there's an end point to this?
I mean, that's up in the air, but
because it's not sustainable. I think that's what I'm getting at. It's not sustainable, so it has to end.
Well, our society as it is not sustainable, but you can sustain austerity forever. I mean, but that's the only way for city level politics to ultimately change, is for the bigger questions on a larger level to change.
Yeah.
And make the conversations about something
solve this problem.
Yeah, fine tuning, data.
Have you thought about the blockchain?
Yeah, if we
blockchain for the sewer.
So, as an expert on that, talk to me about how blockchain could be used to triage our crumbling sewer system.
Yeah. It can't. Yeah, we'll tokenize sewage.
Yeah, every time you flush your toilet,
you'll make money.
Yeah, a token is created on the sewer ledger.
Yeah, it'll put directly in your wallet, and so we're going to encourage people to use the sewer more. I guess.
No. Well, it sounds like conservation. Conservation is what you need to do there. I think the important thing is that we pass we socialize the problems of our system down to the individual, and particularly the poorest people. Like, as long as we're doing that, I think we're on solid ground.
Hey, that's a status quo.
Be very sustainable. I'm sure it'll work out just fine. I mean, how am I going to make money off of this, though? That's the question. Is it going to be an app, or are we going to stick with my blockchain idea?
Yeah, it's not really my department.
We'll work with a private company to contract this. Okay. So don't worry. Someone will make money.
Okay.
Yeah, tax. The shit tax.
Now, were you for the head tax? How do you feel about the
head tax? Yeah, we were definitely for the head tax.
I'm definitely and repeatedly, and
I wasn't a fan of it because, like, wasn't going to raise enough money.
Yeah.
There's critical support is what we had.
Yeah.
It was a joke. The whole fucking thing was a joke. But
the fight wasn't a joke.
The fight wasn't. That's the point.
No.
It was symbolic, which means the reaction to it was even more powerfully symbolic. Defeating it was way more powerfully symbolic than enacting it would have been.
Yeah.
So it wasn't about the money, because that was none, and it wasn't even about the symbolism of passing like a mild progressive tax. The symbolism to fight for there was to not pass that tax. And because of, the business community rallying against it,
And what do you think about this new narrative that's been really emerging in the last few weeks, is that it has spooked Amazon and they're moving to Bellevue?
Well, that's clearly the narrative they're trying to sell. I mean, the whole thing, I mean, they've calculated it like, I mean, it shows how much power they have, that they can pull that stunt with like pretending they were shutting down construction during the fight, and then
the H2 stunt,
that whole stunt,
I think this is all about pitting like locations against each other.
Totally.
Right? This is all about pitting Bellevue against Seattle. Like just like they were making every city in the country fight each other for the crumbs.
But this is why like when, I mean, I think district level issues are fine, but I don't agree with a criticism that a lot of people will level at someone especially like Shama Swant, who they will level the criticism that she doesn't talk about district level issues, and that she does talk about these larger systematic things. And it's like, these systematic things are what, like, you have to have a systematic critique. That's what's affecting people's lives. Like, look, like Amazon has this power that's enormous, that's like totally steamrolling what we call a democracy. So like, if you're not talking about that, what are you going to do about these district level issues? Like, how are you going to fix the sewers, right?
Yes.
If Amazon is going to just build their own sewers for their campuses.
Yes.
And I mean, that's what they do now. Amazon and fucking Microsoft have their buses everywhere.
Yes.
So they have public transit because they can see, because they're running themselves a large system. They're seeing, oh, this is a needed thing for our system to function. But because they see in the logic of their own capitalist system, this is needed to function because this is what our system needs to survive. They're not concerned with the larger system of our society, and no one is, except the people offering a larger systematic critique, like Shama Swant. And that's why we have shitty public transit.
Do you think that, I wonder with those buses, that it's also a matter of their employees don't want to see themselves as the kind of people that take public transit?
Right. Yeah.
Oh, for sure. I mean, add into that the stigma against public transit, both on a status and class level, and also like as like you put it, the person who takes that, but also just being around other people.
Yes, totally. Yeah. Like it's a whole, like what taking public transit kind of encompasses of that.
Yeah, they want this cushy special version for themselves.
Because public transit is a very, I don't know, maybe this isn't the right word, but like a very democratic experience. No,
absolutely
right?
It is, yeah.
You got this amazing cross-section of people, and there are some people that don't want to experience that.
In this town, you don't get a great cross-section, actually, because you don't get rich people.
Oh, well, yes.
Like, those people are not on the bus.
Yeah. That's what Uber is for.
Yeah, exactly. So, I was just on a bus the other day, actually, and, it was not, there were not a lot of coders, by the look of it. Maybe, I mean, that's maybe a not totally accurate class portrayal, but it wasn't a lot of wealthy people on that bus, you know. Historically, there have been public transit systems in this country, in some cities, that, at least for times, were, like, pretty all-inclusive. I feel like it's a matter
of, like, civic engagement and, like, pride
Yeah.
of taking your public transit. If you live in a city, then you should be taking that city's public transit, too.
Yeah, but in America, we hate the city.
We do. We have this weird, like, agricultural fetish. Like, it doesn't make any sense. Like, the money is
the cities are dirty, they're dangerous, Yeah, and our fake... the suburbs are where everyone pretends to be a yeoman farmer with their land.
Yes.
You know, like...
I'm always surprised when my friends that live in the suburbs how they don't even have like a garden. Like the first thing I would have if I had a suburban
Some
house
space,
would
yeah.
be a garden.
Yeah.
And it's like a couple like there's like the landscaping. There's like a
Lawns,
rhodey
man.
and a
Lawns.
juniper. Yeah, and just the saddest lawn in the world too. Just you might want to put some like grass seed.
Like
on there or
most
something.
climates, this is a bad one for lawns.
Yeah. You can grow a lot of moss.
I don't know why people... Okay,
No.
I'm anti-lawn, okay? I'm pro-moss. Moss lawn. No, none of this turf grass anymore.
Yeah.
There are mosses that grow naturally here that you could cultivate to grow better. They're springy and green, and
God damn
you
it.
know are native species and resilient.
They will just take over. You just don't want to take a lawnmower over them, otherwise they'll
Yeah.
tear it up.
Yeah, but
Like-
you don't have to. It'll just keep
exactly.
growing on itself and get.
It isn't like it gets. It's not like grass where like it gets long and dies.
No, it doesn't.
It's like it
It'll
just
build
stays
up.
there.
It'll raise a few inches over
Yeah,
years.
in
the
your
soil, but
lifetime,
the
it's
soil
never
will go
gonna.
up.
Yeah.
Moss lawns, no more turf, no more grass. They're environmentally destructive.
What
They
in
don't-
those few sunny spots?
What about them?
I mean, the moss isn't going to grow in the sunny
Right,
spot.
right.
Well, there you plant a fucking tree to make more
Okay.
shade for the
All right,
moss.
there you go. You've got it covered.
Yeah. Okay, where the fuck were we?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Sewers?
Well,
okay.
well, we were talking about like district level and city level frames, I
Yeah,
guess.
I think my thing with the district level stuff is just that it seems like a good way to engage your voters, and I don't think that people running right now, I think because the districts are so new that they don't realize that you really need to be really connecting with your people in your neighborhood with issues they really care about.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
a lot of folks that are very focused on like citywide issues.
Yeah.
Which is okay, but I think if the candidates focused more on like very local stuff, I think they're going to get a lot more traction.
Yeah, or at least, I mean, I guess I want to push back on that a little and say I think obviously people are going to need to appeal to the voters in their district. I think the trick may be to talk about larger things if they're going to in a way that resonates in a particular way that can resonate with those people in a particular district, because there are
We're seeing that, I suppose, but it might not be all that good.
yeah okay well yeah like District 7, where we both live, me and Colin. Yeah, no, that's where the most toxic shit comes from, is talking about, yeah, you're right, these larger issues, but in a way that appeals to these quasi-suburban homeowners.
Yeah, the biggest issue from my talking to voters and talking to candidates has been homelessness.
Yeah.
Like that is the number one issue, and
Yeah, I mean, it's
The
half
level
of what we've talked about ever on this podcast.
the level of demonization I've seen of homeless folks has been really shocking.
Yeah.
And not just of everyone I talk to. Like it's really disturbing. I don't even know what to say. It's really
Yeah, I mean,
disturbing.
that's basically our beat on this podcast.
Yeah,
is
but
the disturbing reactionary shit that is said about homeless people. We spent the last 2 episodes talking about the fucking Como doc.
The one thing that some people have suggested is I was very hostile towards that state of emergency because I don't think they did anything.
oh yeah, under Murray.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Is it still under effect?
It
I
is.
believe it's
Yeah,
still-
yeah, and I think it's been
And
3
like,
years.
if you really thought, the government always, in all levels, always like abuses the whole state of
Our
emergency.
brand is
thing.
crisis.
Yeah, it's just BS all the time. But if you really wanted to say, if you really wanted to be aggressive and say there's an emergency in homelessness, and if you look around, if you go around the city, there is an emergency. There's tons of people suffering horribly.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But I feel like that. Then what do you do? There's you could be doing what. Maybe this would be bad, but like FEMA style tent city kind of thing.
Yeah.
Is get service providers in there,
Yeah.
really, really work and try to figure out the solution. Give those people healthcare and mental health care,
Right.
like addiction help, like all kinds of stuff. Like we're not doing that. What are we doing?
Well,
What
you can't
happened
do
with the state
that
of emergency?
because why you have to demonize them is because to admit this is like a systematic problem that is oppressing these people, that we have a system that is generating these people, or even to just not demonize them and go, okay, how do we solve the immediate problem? How do we ameliorate the immediate emergency? Is, like you said, yes, like FEMA tents and, housing everyone all the time in something temporary with healthcare and food and whatever. And then you go, well, that's insane, because if you're going to spend all that fucking money and time, why not the next level? And then why not the next level? And soon, if you actually think about this for 5 minutes, you might actually change our economic system and actually not generate homeless people or people who can't care for themselves. You might actually try to make a more, equitable economy that fucking takes care of everybody, and distribute wealth around. So, you just can't even go there.
Yeah, that's what you're right.
And
I want it to be the first step.
Well, so that you can't get to that first step, because this is why the demonization is what it is, and why everything in that Como doc is what it is. Because you're right, that would be the first logical step, even if you didn't do that, just in the thinking it through, that might...
Like a hurricane or earthquake.
Yeah.
Like it's an emergency. Yeah. People are suffering. How can we help them?
And what that first step involves is giving a lot of services to people who need them. That's the first step down that road to actually solving the problem, at least in the thought experiment. So that's why you have to demonize those people, to prevent the discussion from going even to that first ludicrous step that doesn't involve solving a problem, to stop the conversation before it even gets to that obvious reality. You have to demonize those people, make them unworthy of anything but prison, make it their fault, and make helping people in an emergency that was created by forces out of their control, you need to make that, everything we think about welfare, we need to get, giveaways that are going to make people lazy, perverse incentives, encouraging drug addiction. It's the same thing with, take a smaller issue, I say smaller, more logistically contained, maybe, of, just addiction. Well, what's the first obvious thing is safe injection sites, right? Healthcare providing, treating it like healthcare, okay? As a first step to getting people, through to dealing with people just being on the streets, dying, overdosing, treating this like a healthcare problem. So, but that means that existing. That means, and people don't want to. They hate that. So you have to demonize those people to prevent that conversation from even getting there.
Yeah, I think we need even more than just the safe injection sites.
Yeah.
For any substance abuse issue, we should have those kinds of clinics or spaces, because you can offer those people a way out too. There. It's not,
of course, yeah.
People, I think
it's
there's
just it's a first step.
Yeah. But we have this idea, these safe injection sites, people are just going to flock here from all over the world to do heroin. It's no.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's the myth about homelessness, too. Freatle, which has been largely debunked.
Yes, but you hear it all the time.
Yeah.
I tried being involved in East Side stuff a little bit in Redmond, and encountered a lot of people who were it's the same thing but a little bit different, where they say, all the homeless folks from Seattle come to Redmond because we give so many services. It's no, we do surveys, and people say, I lived here and I became homeless, and so now that's why I live in the woods over there.
Yeah, right.
Right? Because it's this is where I live, I know this place, I know the grocery store, the convenience store. If I go to Seattle, there's all those camps and stuff, but I don't know anybody there, and it's scary.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
This was my community that has cast me out.
Yeah, it's like an abusive relationship.
Yeah.
You still want to stay where you're comfortable.
Well, do you think that we're in a unique time then for the city council races, because the conversation is so dominated by citywide issues?
I think we're in a unique race just because the districts are so new.
Yeah.
And I think the democracy vouchers also encourage these people. I might be wrong, but I don't think there's ever been a time when there's this many people running for Seattle City
Yeah,
Council.
there seems like a lot of
so few
folks.
seats.
I mean, yeah, when you got like 40 plus people,
Yeah.
like there's so many people.
Like, to just take an issue like homelessness, like, what is the range of the candidates you've talked to, like,
Yeah.
what's the range of the attitudes or the ideas, let's be generous and say ideas, like, what is, what are the farthest in any direction?
That's a really tough question. I'd say, I don't want to be mean, but I'll say that realistically, I think that the range, because I can choose any range here, is simplistic to realistic. I've had some people on, and some people, they have very simplistic ideas of homelessness and how to solve that. And like you said, a lot of it is about character and a lot of that American mythology stuff. And other people are very honest and say it is incredibly complex. I have no idea. Like, I've got some desires of things to do, but like, even just talking about it as just being homelessness is not like a good place to start, maybe.
Yeah,
Like,
no,
talking
for
about
sure.
mental health care, talking about addiction, talking about, just affordability of the city and stuff like that, and just
Basic
jobs, and
economic
even
structures.
just, capitalism, like you're talking about, like that, maybe just talking about it as just, and I mean, I ask this question all the time, how can the city help homeless folks? But then, that might be just too simplistic. So I appreciate the people that have a more complex, nuanced view of homelessness.
Like, what are some of those views? If you're
Yeah.
able to summarize,
Well, I
just
think
even
like
a little.
one thing like you were just talking about is the safe injection sites.
Yeah.
I don't actually know of anybody who's really out there saying we need this. I think even the folks that are for safe injection sites are kind of hedging a little bit.
Yeah, okay.
Just because it's a tough thing to go out there. But I think that is definitely something that I think would be a good first step.
Yeah.
Because like you'd be getting those people like off the streets. Like, I mean, in Seattle right now, I mean, we do have a major heroin epidemic. I mean, you'll go around and you just see people like shooting up just in the parks and stuff.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
like, it's like my wife is a nurse and she worked in the hospital for a little while and just seeing people come in with infections and stuff. And maybe had those safe injection sites.
Right.
Yeah.
A lot of those infections and needle
course,
sharing and
yeah.
all that stuff. Like, there's so many things you could start helping with. And just this one little thing.
Well, there's this framing, like, where it is, what can the city do? How can the city solve this problem,
Yeah.
right? And that's the way, and the critics of the current, council and the mayor, the Como Doc types, the Safe Seattle types are like, well, we're doing all this, and a larger spectrum too. We've done all this, we've spent all this money, it's not working, it hasn't solved the problem. That's a ludicrous position, but what I haven't heard many people running for office. I mean, let's leave the like out and out socialists, out of this, because they have a systematic critique. That's why they're cool. But no one else, like, so our last episode we talked all about, the like weak, pathetic response from City Hall to the like uproar over the Como Doc and how it just gave away the whole frame to the right. And what no one is willing to say, because they don't have a systematic critique, is on what I would like, wish just, Seattle liberals could say is, we're not going to solve this problem. Like, it is not possible. We cannot end this because it's a national thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's a problem of the entire economy. All we can do is ameliorate it in protest of that reality. All we can do is bankrupt ourselves fucking helping people who are in need because they are. Not because we think we're going to solve homelessness. Because that's not, we can't change, we can do some good things, but we cannot, as Seattle City Council, change the entire terms of the economy. Mm-hmm. Now, we could do some really important things, particularly on housing policy. Like, we could very much, the City Council, in places where regulation could actually help instead of just spending and redistribution of wealth, like the city council could really do things like changing how the real estate market works in all kinds of ways, like to prevent all the investment speculation in real estate. Mm-hmm. And that would be good things. But we could also just spend a lot of money helping people and building housing. And but with the understanding that it's not going to solve the fucking problem.
We spent money, like, on a tunnel.
Yeah.
Like, waterfront tunnel. Like, we can spend money. Like, people talk about how there's not enough money.
Yeah.
There's enough money to do a lot of things in this town.
Yeah.
But not to take care of people.
Right.
Yeah.
Clean up T-Mobile Park. There's money for that.
Yeah.
What was
That was the King County.
Oh, yes,
gave them
that's right.
$135 million?
Yeah. And it's like, yeah. I mean, and I think those arguments are constructive because, you know, it just shows, like, we're spending money on this, there is not an emergency mindset. There isn't an acknowledgement really in the day-to-day spending that this is, like, an absurd situation that should not be allowed to continue or that we should be throwing everything at to ameliorate. But I think even if you did that, even if you're like, no, we're not going to, we're going to let the ballparks barely deteriorate and instead we're going to house a bunch of people. Even if you did all that, you're not going to solve this problem. And I think that is a politics that there is not enough of in this city. And I think, you know, from the mayor's perspective, they want to like sound reasonable by admitting, yes, we're getting some things wrong, there are gaps in the system, but we're going to do what we can to fix it. And we're going to do better. And then, you know, you'll ask a year later and it'll be the same thing.
I don't think there's any... I should watch my words. I don't know if there's really any intent really to solve the homeless problem.
Yeah.
Like, I wonder how much of it is just appeasing people that are angry about it.
Yeah, no,
they're angry about seeing homeless folks in the street. They're like, that's why I get very angry about the whole state of emergency thing because we're not treating it like
not at all.
Like there was an earthquake and there are people without homes and they're suffering and what are we going to do to help those people? That's not the attitude we're taking. Like instead, what we're doing is we're doing this sweeps. Mm-hmm. So you got people who are suffering and you're like, oh, what are we going to do? We're going to help them? No, we're going to kick them all out of this area and be like, good luck.
Yeah, because in the case of an earthquake, you go, well, that was out of these people's control. This was an act of God that just happened to these people.
But so much of the homelessness really...
but for that to be true, you need a systematic critique. You need to go, what's the earthquake that's happening here? Oh, it's our economic system. Well, absent that, you're not going to have that kind of priority because because you're implicitly blaming those people.
But is there any hope then? Like, because we can't really change the system.
So, like, take the example of, like, sanctuary cities. Mm-hmm. I think this is a super good frame on that issue because there is a larger, like, don't worry about it. Yeah, seriously, like, make all the noise you want. I just sometimes crack beers right in front of me. There's a larger political issue of immigration nationally. Mm-hmm. It has a lot of complicated fucking facets. Our fascist empire is being run finally by an open fascist and racist, and and
everyone's fine with it.
Yeah, like, exactly. And
everyone's fine.
Yeah, exactly.
Like,
and
it's horrifying.
Life goes on.
And the immigration enforcement is out of fucking control, and they're committing all these horrible crimes, again, and just absolutely abusing people. The city of Seattle and these other sanctuary cities cannot solve that problem. And they acknowledge that. They say, like, but we don't have to fucking participate directly in that, and we can take these steps to do this bare minimum that we can in an effort to protect a few people, or at least not contribute by, say, supplying data to fucking ICE. And we can use that and talk about that as an issue and change this frame, change the way we're talking about, use this as a political issue. I mean, that's what you do here. Like, there are systematic critiques that even Democrats have on immigration. I mean, they're not all great, but at least they have them. So we need that on homelessness too, because it's and just economically in general.
Yeah, Seattle's such a strange place because we do have like, well, we've got these liberal folks, right? But we also have like kind of this like socialist kind of movement going on. But being like, you know, these major like Microsoft and Amazon, like these just ginormous monopoly companies, it's such a weird.
It's like a microcosm of something much bigger, man. It's like it is we have a weird concentration of some of the biggest companies in the world, and I mean, it makes sense. Like
We can't afford to do anything around here.
right.
That's the thing that gets me. It's like we have like what, two of the richest people in the world here.
Yeah.
We've got these mega corporations. We've got all these people.
One of the richest corpses.
But yet we still can't seem to pay for anything.
Yeah.
We have bridges that we can't replace.
That explains for like the success of like a socialist city council candidate, okay, in Shamaswan.
Mm-hmm.
Like that shit makes it pretty easy to fucking talk about, okay? That's what she's good at, is taking these issues and making them and connecting them to real things. It's a very the reality here is very stark. It's very easily politically digestible. Just what you said. We have these massive fucking corporations with rich people, and the city still has social problems. Weird, you know? Like, why is that? And so it's easy to talk about those things. So that's sort of the Seattle's revolutionary potential, if I may.
I mean, I'm a little bit afraid of how many people here are just they're not civically engaged at all.
Yeah.
Like you can meet somebody on the street and they will have like a whole ton of opinions about Congress, about Trump, about all kinds of things. You'll ask them about something in the city. No idea.
Yeah.
No idea. They don't read the paper. You know, they don't follow local news. Nothing. And part of that also is right now, like how the Trump thing just sucks all the oxygen out of the room. It just seems like just continuously like this.
Well, like national liberals have been pumping all the oxygen out of the room in the name of Trump.
Yeah. Well, and for ratings, like
exactly.
everything
he sells.
That's why he got elected. Is he?
Yeah.
Like those media people put him on the screen because he got ratings.
And they said as much. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
and
like,
now they were
really
shocked. How did this happen? Well, you put him on
Sometimes
TV
markets work.
continuously.
Yeah.
And now that, like you said, the oxygen has been sucked up for the last 2 years on this, like, all this, the Trump shit that's gone nowhere, you know? Yeah. And instead of a systematic critique, and it has occupied the brains of everybody who maybe would have, I mean, say no one, like, is locally engaged. I mean, local news and media is incredibly banal. So really, if everyone just started listening to local podcasts instead of reading, say, the Seattle Times or watching, God forbid, Como or Cairo or something, then we might be in a much better place.
Yeah, there's a bunch of people making like a lot of independent content out here.
So, on that note, can you recommend, besides obviously, I mean, it's pointless to recommend anything but our two shows, like, because that's going to take up plenty of your time and all the information you need to know, really.
Yeah, it's a good starting
Seattle
point.
Sucks and Talk to Seattle. But are there other Seattle-based podcasts that you like for civics in general?
Yeah, I mean, there is, South Times has The Overcast. Mm-hmm. That one's really good. That would be the one.
Actually listen to that. I should start, maybe.
Yeah, I'd recommend that one. I mean, that one's been... It's very well produced. That'll be the number one. So,
is that just a news overview or what?
Usually they pick one story, so it's not like I really wanted one person. Actually, I thought about doing this as a show.
So it's like the reporter who did the story.
I think it's Jim Bruder and somebody else.
I can't remember who else, but yeah.
I want to get them on the Seattle podcast, but I haven't reached out to them quite yet.
Awesome.
If they're listening, come on my show.
Hell yeah.
That's the one I would really recommend. One thing I really wish, and I wanted to actually do this as a show, but I don't need another podcast, is I would like a weekly wrap-up of local news. Like have something released on like a Sunday or sometime on the weekend that kind of gives like the weekly news summary for the entire week.
And you could release it already at double speed.
Oh, yeah.
So that if you wanted it to double it again in your app, then you've got like this quick dose of weekly news. You're all caught up, you know?
Yeah, totally. Because one thing I think when you're talking about people like in like kind of their views of the world changing, I think one way to really maybe one baby step would be is to help people be more engaged civically at the local level. Yeah. So I think maybe if you understood what was going on, if you really saw what was going on, maybe then your mind would change about some things,
Yeah.
Like I think a lot of people want to kind of think that government is kind of magical.
Yeah.
Like it's just these incompetent fools, and if I was in charge, everything would be great.
Yeah.
But when you're actually like following council meetings, when you're actually seeing people really trying hard to solve complex problems, then you realize, oh, yeah, it's not as easy. And that's one thing we're really dealing with here in Seattle is like a lack of civic engagement, and it's really your duty as a citizen to be engaged in following what's going on and not just poo-pooing politics.
And I think I'm trying to think up like what Seattle civics or news-oriented podcasts I do listen to, and I'm thinking, God, they're mostly nationally oriented. So like Blabbermouth, the Strangers podcast.
That's how you get the audience. Like,
I mean they're talking about like Lena Dunham and Trump most of the time, and I mean,
if you want to do like a very locally focused show like mine, you're not going to make money. You're not going to get advertisers.
Yeah.
Like you're doing like, the public affairs channel stuff, or the stuff that was like, Sunday morning, early in the day kind of stuff that the stations were required to produce, right? You're not going to, the market just doesn't, that's why you need podcasts, right? You need someone like me, and I'm going to toot my own horn, who really cares, who's willing to put the time in to actually produce this content, because no one's going to pay me.
Yeah.
I live off my wife. My wife supports everything I do.
That must be nice.
Yes.
I gotta get me one of those. Yes. Sugar mama, hell yeah.
Yeah, she's very sweet.
Yeah.
Without her, I wouldn't be able to do all the things I'm doing. I would not be able to do all these interviews.
Yeah.
Like that, when you're talking about like capitalism and all this stuff, like that's a fact. Like I would want to do this, but the fact is, like, I just would not have the time. Yeah. Like all this stuff takes so much time.
Yeah.
And she's the only reason. Who knows how long that will last? Like one like car repair away from me having to get a job at Dick's Hamburgers, or whoever will possibly hire me.
Yeah.
They probably won't hire me. I think I made fun of stuff.
I mean, because of my maybe just to like derail us and sum us up here, I'll just like tell you all about the travails of my life. So because of my idiotic freelance career, I've been reduced to going back to driving Lyft this week to cover some immediate needs. Which, whatever, it's fine. I did it when I moved back up here from LA, and you meet a bunch of people. I've actually met a bunch of comrades. Because they'll start chatting, and eventually, at some point, I'm like, well, that's fucking capitalism for you. And then they're like, hell yeah, and I get like a fist bump, and if any of those, and then of course I end up telling them about the podcast. So actually, I think most of our recent new listeners are really just my my fares.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So when I work retail, I really didn't want people talking to me.
Yeah.
So when I take a Lyft, I have the same feeling of like, this person doesn't want me talking to them. Should I talk to a Lyft driver or not? Is it rude to not talk, or is it rude to try to make BS conversation?
I don't think it's rude to try and make BS conversation.
Okay. 'Cause I usually say like, hello, some dopey thing about the weather or whatever, that kind of thing. Not canned stuff, just like it's raining out.
Yeah. I sort of start with like, hey, how's your day going? Once we're driving away.
Okay.
And just read it from there. Yeah. Some people don't want to talk,
Okay, so just that normal.
Not that Colin's looking at me like, Greg, you've never read a person right in your life, and are probably just yakking at these people, unwanted, and that's probably true. But that's okay.
See, I don't want to be the passenger who's doing that.
Right?
Who's jabbering away in the backseat, and he's like, "This guy." When I just pull over and drop him off now.
Yeah,
I mean, I haven't gotten any real MAGA chuds or anything, so
okay.
But yeah, so you worked retail?
Oh yeah,
cash register,
okay, for bookstore for over a decade.
All right, so you ever have this? You know how when someone's card gets declined and they have to go through a little song and dance of surprise or confusion and well, let's try it again, or but what could be wrong? And it's I can't imagine, and then it's oh. God, goddamn banks, fucking whatever. So now, I'm playing this like game of roulette where I'm like, let's see. I'm just gonna go to the store. Let's see if this will work. I'm like, so I'm going up. I know I'm going up. I know this is like, I might be purchasing grocery items or not today. But because I like to think these things through. Like, I know what I'm going to say when someone knocks on the stall and I'm on the can. Like, I already have that plan. I'm not like, whoa, somebody's in here. No, I've got a script, okay? So, when I get up and it comes back declined, I just say, goddamn money. And that's the whole thing, instead of trying to deny that I'm destitute.
Yeah, I had a lot of those groceries declined. And then it's like, do I put them back? A lot of times they'll be like, oh, we'll take care of this. Like, I feel like I should put it back. I took all this stuff off your shelves. I'm just going to leave it here. And they just kind of want you to leave.
Oh, yeah. They just, the thing to do is like, I'll go figure this out. See you later.
Yeah.
But see, that's really, I think, a perfect story, because that is the Seattle prevailing feeling right now of being uncomfortable with, like, homeless people. Mm-hmm. It's they're feeling awkward. It's like, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. They're confronted with this reality that is awkward and uncomfortable.
It's worse. It's even worse for the people in line behind you.
Oh, I'm sure.
They're like, oh God, I'm seeing a poor person.
Yeah, should I?
Oh God.
Well, and you know what they're probably thinking? Should I pay for this guy's groceries?
No,
should I help him out?
No one.
They're wondering, do they have Purell in?
Well, see, and that's why Save Seattle exists.
That's why that's an impulse buy.
Community to what I was just exposed to.
Okay. Well, in case anyone is wondering what I say when I'm in a public restroom and someone knocks on the door or the stall. There's two possible options. If I'm absolutely certain that the door is locked and the lock is functioning correctly, without skipping a beat, I say, come on in. And just wait for the handle to jiggle instinctively, and then someone go, and if I am not certain, I just say, yoo-hoo. That also, you get weird noises of confusion and shock outside.
Well, Jason, thank you so much for being with us. Listeners, you should follow Jason at Mr. Rigden _. So Mr. _Rigden on Twitter. Listen to his shows, Talk to Seattle and Podcast Questions, and you can find those.
The Seattle Podcasters podcast.
Oh, and this. Okay, yes. I missed that one.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
I don't even think I knew that one existed. So
I thought
3 podcasts.
No, I got too many shows.
And you had crypto shows when we first.
Oh yes,
yeah.
If anybody wants to talk to me about cryptocurrency, I know a lot of the scammers out there. I've interviewed a lot of them.
Awesome.
Well, you can find all those shows pretty much where any podcasts are played, but I think check them out on iTunes, give them a 5-star review, subscribe. And you can also, as we've talked about before, you can find them at Optimism Brewery in Capitol Hill for the Podcasters Guild meetup. The next one is April 24th. And I think, as Jason said, if you're interested in starting a podcast or just sort of podcast curious, you can come out and meet some folks and
who knows, we might even be there.
Yeah, we might be there.
We should have like 20 to 40 people there.
Yeah,
quite a lot of people who have shows. So like if you do want to start a show or you just want to meet other podcasters, I think it's a great place to kind of network and just talk.
Yeah, and people are super friendly, and
it's not an agenda. Like there's no talks. There's no like speaker. It's just a group of people just kind of having beers and just
Jason
talking.
just buys everyone a beer.
Yeah, no.
I mean, excuse me. Jason's wife just buys everyone beer.
Well, now that we're talking about money, we have a few more Patreon subscribers.
Hell yeah.
So we wanted to thank those new 3 subscribers. Christian Medico, Brian Platt, friend of the show.
Hell yeah.
Now extra special friend of the show. And Benocialism, a little play on Ben and socialism, I think. Thank you so much for supporting the show. It's super awesome. So if you want to be like them, you can find us on Patreon. We have a new Seattle Suckers report that only people who pay the Starbucks latte market price can listen to. So there's some incentive.
What's Starbucks a lot? I'm a patron. Do I need to re-up?
No. It's $5.
Okay. Okay.
Whoa. That's the minimum threshold.
Yeah, that is the minimum.
You should give at the local market price of a tall Starbucks latte.
That's
I have no idea what that is.
Well, go to the one nearest your house and order and find out.
Well, you can find us on Patreon at Seattle Sucks, I believe. And we really appreciate it. Thank you for listening. Thank you again, Jason, for being here.